पताकस्त्रिपताको अर्धपताककर्तरी मुखः मयूराख्यो अर्धचन्द्रश्च अरालशुखतुण्डकः मुष्टिश्च शिखराख्यश्च कपित्तकटकमुखः सूचीचन्द्रकला पद्मकोश सर्पशिरस्तथा मृगशीर्ष सिंहमुखः काङ्गूलो अलपद्मकः.
Whether they are used in prayer or apparently involuntarily, hands in action always have a little story of their own to tell. Whether they're at work or bridges between seeming silences, or used to transmit codes or to imitate, in our imagination they conjure up a rich world of associations and so reveal a variety of human intentions and motivations beyond the spoken word. The evolution of human life is shrouded in mystery and goes back millions of years. Man has evolved a capacity for the most subtle nuances of insight, experience, and communication. Gesture and its continuing evolution, particularly in the East, probably discovered that certain bodily expressions of inner feelings were communicated, then recognized as being shared. They were codified and progressively refined into a system. And that is perhaps how the idea of Mudra was born, long before the written word. In man's attempt to reach his God, sun worship is perhaps the oldest form of adoration on this planet. The Surya Prana Mudra sought to absorb the energies of the sun into man's own life force. The mudra, in addition to being directed towards the life-giving sun, also has a more esoteric meaning associated with the sun as Paramatman, the Supreme Self or the Oversoul. In doing this mudra properly, it is believed that one can trigger off the solar plexus in the abdominal nervous system with great neurological and spiritual benefits. This Surya Mudra is performed with the classical Gayatri mantra to the sun.
Om Bhur Bhava Swaha Tat Savitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodhayat.
The body is verily the primary foundation of all that sustains. Says an ancient text, the Hindu spiritualistic practices lay great stress on making the body a suitable instrument in order to receive the cosmic vibration. The chanting of the Vedas, because they reflect the primeval sounds, help channelize the flows of psychic energy. They require the right mental attitude and the right corresponding gesture if they are to have the desired impact in elevating human consciousness. Their sonic effects have to be channelized into the subtle body, and the mudras, it is believed, act here as receiver sets of its field of force. In Vedic chanting, which remained for centuries essentially an oral transmission, the association of mudra or a physical correlative with the chant also became useful in the process of memorization and transmission. Priests, too, mediating between God and man, sought to find the physical correlatives of the sacred mantras. Just as in Vedic chanting, where there is a mudra for each of the syllables, there is a mudra also for each of the major gods of the Hindu pantheon. Mudras are different from the everyday gestures and movements of human beings. They are said to have been revealed by the ancient rishis or great sages who were the custodians of sacred knowledge. These movements of the hands have been called Divyakriya, or divine actions, by the sage Shukracharya. In the gesture of prayer called the Namaskara Mudra, the palm centers, regarded as important centers of psychic energy, are pressed together, and the energy is intensified and reabsorbed into the circuit of individual forces towards the highest supra-individual center, where the universal consciousness has its potential seat. The mystical propensities of the mudra were reasserted in the practice of yoga, where union with the highest consciousness is brought about by the harmony of mind and body. Yoga provides the standard of perfection in all fields of life and supplies the norms of beauty, power, and movement. Yoga does not merely rest satisfied with the perfection of bodily postures or asanas. It attempts to tame the mind through the body. It acts by impeding or increasing the circulation of the blood the perfect union between the mind and the body by the correct use of asana, posture, kriyas, movements, and mudras burns out hurdles in the path of Kundalini, or the latent psychic energy, which is aroused by the Antara Mudra and removes all psychic obstacles. Mudra is used in this manner to elevate the aspirant to higher levels of consciousness. There is a good basis for the acceptance that mudra does control the mind-brain processes and the functions within the nervous system by uniting various nerve terminals of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous function. In Hindu ritual, the ultimate goal is the symbolic union of the personal and universal self, of which the deity is the concretization or facet. It is the devotee who infuses the deity with its power through the intensity of his worship and the richness of his visualization. The sacred mantra is first recalled by the mind, articulated by the mouth, and then presented by gesture. The puja begins with a mudra, symbolizing the surrender of the devotee to the deity. This is followed by invoking the 8 chakras, or centers of psychic power in the body. It is thought that gods and goddesses can be invoked by the use of hand gestures, and that different types of spiritual energy can be roused by their use. Perhaps it would be too disturbing for the uninitiated mind to establish a direct communication with these forces, as happens sometimes in a trance, so that the priests mediating between God and man sought to find the physical correlatives of the sacred formula. They called it Mudra. The puja itself starts with the use of holy water and flowers, by which the presence of the Godhead is consecrated with a Pira puja, delineating the throne or a seat for the Lord. The deity is visualized and a kind of transference takes place between the devotee and the deity. Finally, the Mukha puja involves the protection and purification of the offering. Here the Surabhi Mudra is used. It is a symbol of Kamdhenu, the holy cow, the mother who sustains with the milk of her body. The Mudra signifies the udder of the cow. It is an offering to the one who sustains and a request to the wind to carry the message from the heart of the devotee to the deity. From being a means of worship or union, Mudra increasingly became inner-directed in the Buddhist tradition. The deity disappeared, and the meditative experience of Buddhism developed an intricate system of visual symbols to reflect the different levels of meditative experience. In Tantric Buddhism, mudras became exquisitely refined and evolved into a complex language to designate particular stages of mystical experience and consciousness. The monks use movements of the hands to embellish the effect of their chants. They set symbolically in motion the wheel of law, embodying the four noble truths of Buddhism in the ultimate realization of the unity of inner and outer worlds. The mudras that were assimilated into Buddhist art represented different aspects of the experience of the Buddha in the process of his realization of nirvana. There is the Bhumi Sparsh, or the earth-touching mudra, which the Holy One used when he called the earth as a witness to his resolution not to give up the search or succumb to temptations till he saw the light. Or the Dharma Chakra mudra, which is called turning the wheel of dharma, broadly denoting the cycle of births and rebirths. With the passage of Buddhist and Hindu rituals through many times and centuries, the essential spiritual idea of the mudra was liable to become blurred and misunderstood. Not so in painting and sculpture, where mudra may have actually remained the most authentic. Even in the traditional forms, mudra has remained a vital and integral element, as in this pose of Lord Ganesh, the destroyer of obstacles in one's path. The right hand is in the mudra of blessing. The sacramental view of life permeated all forms of art. Whether folk or classical, the authenticity of the mudra has been retained. This explains the fullness of the figures, the conquest of the mind, poise and serenity that has remained the most distinct feature of Indian aesthetic experience. Where the joy of creativity was linked to the universal spirit, the ecstasy of this recognition was communicated and made concrete by mudra. This has been writ large in the faces, the finger inflections, and the profound poise of the figures. Indian sculpture uses a smooth, round, and resilient body frame, and in which the posture and hand inflections dominate. The foundation of the human body becomes indeed subordinate to the vital circulation of inner consciousness, chetna, and mood or rasa. Indian dance, too, is frequently a form of spiritual dedication. Although at one level it releases itself from the esoteric clasp of the mystical and attempts to portray the many facets of human emotion, it is only fully comprehensible to the initiated or the rasikas. The dancer is performing a piece from Jayadev's Geet Govinda, where Lord Krishna is trying to woo back the incensed beloved Radha. The emotion portrayed is extremely human. The hands in dance are as the voice of the singer or speaker, and the use of gesture was elaborately coded in the Natya Shastra. The Abhinaya Darpan, mirror of gesture, sets forth several hastas or hand movements which are used to communicate a story or a mood. The hastas in isolation mean nothing. It is only when they cohere with a certain mood or rasa that they achieve the status of a mudra. All the preparations of the maiden assume poetical significance only in the context of the rasa of Shringara or love. Their motivation becomes clear only in the landscape of a dominant emotion. Similarly, the Pushpa Vachaya Mudra is not the plucking but the picking of flowers, since the context is in the spirit of offering. The hand gestures of the Khandita Nayaka, or the lovelorn maiden, become eloquent mudras against the backdrop of the mood of viraha or separation. The involuntary gestures of the hands reinforce the feeling of revulsion. The languorousness of the mood is enhanced by gestures which in themselves would mean little. So too, with the hand movements that denote sleep, go with the expression of anger, the coyness of the maiden before the warmth of embrace. The evolution of mudra in dance ushered in a liberation from the phonetic confines of the world of sound. It went beyond the world of similitude employed in pictorial writing and even sculpture. In dance, there are gestures that come to one naturally, as when requesting an unexpected visitor to come in, sit, then asking someone in, or ordering them in. The hand gestures in themselves could mean any number of things, but put in the context of rasa, the rasa of karunyam or compassion, empathy with someone else's pain, its significance is magnified into a mudra. There is anguish and sorrow. Wonder at the infinite beauty of the universe. Jealousy, envy, and anger. Also employed in dance are the gestures of imitation, stressing the most important characteristic of whatever is to be represented. Thus, a drop becomes a trickle, then a brook loses itself into a waterfall, a stream, and then a majestic, meandering, mighty river. mudras then trigger off a sequence of associations and the poetic imagination. In the words of Nandakeshwara, where the hand is, there the eye must go. Where the eye goes, the mind must follow. And the object contemplated by the mind must bring out the natural and appropriate feelings.